Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Well, if you got the notification and you're here early, I think you kind of got the drill. I was sitting here and I was already painting on this thing, even though, I could just be doing this live. So I thought, hey, why don't I do this live? So that's why I'm back. Generally, I don't tend to actually follow through on this whole, well, I could continue this stream tomorrow kind of a thing, but I guess today was one of those days. I am not going to ramble on too much right now, because frankly, the part that I want to get to is just the painting, so I think I'm just going to do that. So everyone is kind of familiar with this from last time, I assume, so I'm going to be jumping back into where we were last, which was here. So here we are. This is roughly where we were at last time. And not that much of a change here, but I've been adding a few things. And now it looks like this. So, kind of a lot of subtle things that might not be all that obvious at the very start, but you'll sort of notice them as it goes along. The main thing right now is just to try to find a sort of cohesive look to the whole thing and maybe guide the eye a little better. Right now I feel like there's a little bit of a conflict on what it is that you're meant to be looking at. So I'm hoping throughout the stream I'll be able to solve that problem. I don't really have a ton of music lined up, so I'm going to play something really inappropriate. The Monster in My Pocket soundtrack from the NES. And I'll just play that until it doesn't make sense anymore. Hold on, I gotta adjust the sound a little bit here, or else everyone's ears are gonna get blasted. Alright, we got it. There we go. Okay. Let's see here. I might put on like an RPG soundtrack or something as we go, but right now I just wanted something to keep my brain active. There's something about the like subtle energy about from Konami's really old lineup. I think it's just that their drums are so aggressive that it sort of just snaps you awake. For now, I am going to be doing a lot of zooming in and out. And a lot of that is... Oh yeah, I forgot about this part of the soundtrack. Yeah, no, we can skip that. There we go. So a lot of what I'm going to be doing in this stream is jumping back and forth between different sizes. So I kind of want to make sure that everything reads properly as I'm doing this. There's no doubt in my mind that there's some hefty rework that's going to be necessary in some parts, but hopefully I can get away with some not so taxing things. We'll see though. Like, this root system here doesn't necessarily really make sense. But the shape is interesting to look at, so I might just keep it for that. Or, what if these are not the same tree? That kind of makes more sense in my head. It still might be an awkward shape, so we'll look at that as we go, but there's something appealing about the idea of maybe these two being not the same thing, and therefore the shape makes more sense. Let's see. Yeah, that kind of brought it back down to earth a little bit. Not quite as abrasive. The good thing about painting a scene like this, like, it's not an absolute rule, but part of it is that everything is so saturated in green anyway, and everything sort of has the same feel to it, that I can borrow a lot of the same colors and just sort of splash them in everywhere. And it just makes things feel more cohesive rather than wrong. It is strange when that happens. Like, I've had paintings where I've actively tried to give elements their own sort of colors and hues and make sure that they're differentiated because, you know, sometimes those things get lost in the process. And then turns out it's better if everything just shares the same palette anyway. Which can be a bit counterintuitive, but I guess that's where the experimentation comes in. I have no idea how loud this music is playing on everyone's side, but there's something about this particular like swing. Like, I realize that it has its own term, but in every single like NES game around that era, if you had anything in this kind of tempo, then it just became crime music. Like, you could, in real life, you can equate it to a ton of different things, like swing dancing or whatever else. In games, it just became crime. And I feel like that was very specifically the purpose that the composers were trying to give it. It's Monday night! Yeah. Oh yeah, it is Monday, isn't it? Oh boy. It's been a day. This Monday has been really strange, I'm not gonna lie. So part of the purpose is that since I take Mondays off, I can use these days for whatever I want. So I always sort of like preload it with a bunch of expectations of things that I want to do, because planning ahead makes things easier, just in general. And I was kind of ready to go today and do whatever. And I don't know what happened. I might not have gotten enough sleep or something. I have been dead tired all day. Like, I've been barely sentient. So the fact that I was sitting here and already doing painting, it was like, okay. This is probably going to be my primary activity for the day, so might as well make the full experience out of it. see. That branch is a little awkward. Is it too small? Is that what it is? Maybe. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, I guess. You know what I think these trees are missing? I don't think they're gnarled enough. They need some gnarling. Like, I started to vaguely introduce it up here. I mean, essentially just what it means is that the tree has been damaged at some point and then creates these, like, nubules to sort of contain the damage. Old trees tend to have a lot of these, so I think that's why it doesn't feel right to me. Like, something this moss covered and lived in probably needs to look a little lived in. Let me just look at this from a distance for a second. I'm gonna try something. I'm not entirely convinced this will work, but I'm gonna give it a try. Nah, it becomes too much. That can still work, but maybe if I, like, give it a bit more focus over here. And then compensate a little. That is unfortunately the thing. When you're working with this, it's all about guiding the eye where you want it to be. If that doesn't serve your purpose, then it's kind of useless. Well, this thing wasn't necessarily a problem to have here. Okay, to maybe have some light on that. Ah, it's a bit much. Let me try removing this for now. Maybe I should actually make this area a little darker, just in general. No idea if this is gonna serve my purposes, but we'll find out. I really did pick the most aggressive music I possibly could. Holy crap. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's do... Or do we have the whole thing in just one go? That would be lovely, because then I don't have to flip between everything constantly. No. That's frustrating. Well, I guess we're not listening to Final Fantasy V then. Alright, what else can we do? Come on. Okay, F0. Let's do that. There we are. Okay. So again, for reference, for those of you that weren't here for the previous stream, I'm running the music off of YouTube, which is, at this point, probably something I shouldn't be doing, but that's what I've been doing this whole time, so it saves me some time. However, they've changed the rules for ads, and now if you run an ad blocker, they will just pretend like the video isn't available. It'll come back if you reload it, but it means that for every single video that you run, you have to reload it just to get the video running properly. And if you're in a playlist, it means that it'll just like cycle through every single song in the playlist and you lose your place immediately. It's silly. So I'm trying to do full playlists for this stream right now because I can't be bothered to fight with YouTube right now. And of course, the alternative is that I just turn off my ad blocker and then you guys get blasted with ads in a language that you can't understand. So, doesn't really work for that either. Anyway, we're drawing trees. This looks lovely. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a bit of an impromptu thing, but it's moving along. Not entirely sure I'm, like, all about it just yet, because I feel like there's certainly some things that I could improve, but we're working our way through. Let's see, just want to see here. No, I actually like it with the lighter grass. It works better. So I'm just going to keep experimenting until things feel like they sort of line up with where I want them. Right now I want everything to at the very least feel nice and framed. So maybe getting this rock size down a little bit will help with that. Alright, got a pretty long question here. Let's see. A bit technical, but is there a specific highest value of something you can get when you're lighting a scene? Is that all design, or is there like a limit? Thinking of those times when it's super overexposed, but the value of the subject is pretty dark. Yeah, I think I see what it is that you're asking. Like, there's no particular rule for how light and dark you really should be working with something, but there's some shorthand you can have in the back of your mind. Like, generally you just never use pure white and pure black. Personally, I tend to go for not too overexposed colors in the start anyway, because over time you're going to be adding more and more darker shades as it feels appropriate. And let's say, for example, that you're painting something and it turns out that it's not, you know, overexposed enough, that it needs more black, or it needs a lighter white, or whatever else that would come your way. Well, in that case, you can just darken it or lighten it up. It's easier to overexpose than it is to remove exposure. Like, the darkness here, I could go... If I went to pure black, it would look like... No, that's not even correct. This is pure black. And you can kind of see, I have a lot to go on here, but it still looks like it's pretty dark in there. Now that I've added that, it looks like this is too faded out. You kind of get the point. Out here, this looks like it's complete white. This is what white looks like. So that means that if I ever need those colors, and I need it to go that dark at some point, I have the option to go back to that. Now, there isn't like a specific formula for what should and should not be used. That's just something that you learn with practice, but shorthand, I would say that just try to avoid using, you know, pure colors. But that is if you're painting something like this. It doesn't apply to everything. So, for example, if the intent is to do stylized works, or that you are intending to highlight very specific types of lighting, or you want to be a little bit more abstract with it, you can just go straight for the most intense colors and work from there. Like, yeah, there's all manner of options available, but if you're doing this, and at least in the way that I'm doing it right now, yeah, that would be my advice. Might be one of those things that's reactive and spontaneous. Yeah. Like, I say this a lot, but it does honestly tend to come down to, you start out with at least some decent principles on the direction you want to go in terms of learning, but a lot of the other stuff is really just experience. Like, what I'm doing right now, I'm building off of, like, decades of just painting random stuff. But I'm not a landscape painter. Like, this is not the specific thing that I do. But I've just been painting some landscapes for fun with these characters and spending a good bit of time on it. And just in the natural progression of figuring that out, I've figured out a couple of things, and I can relay some of it. Some of it I probably haven't even realized that I've caught on to. Let's see. Let's see, do you have any best practice tips for landscape painting? My specific problem is that I always tend to be overwhelmed by the blob phase. I could draw everything out first, I guess, but I don't want to be chained by that method. Okay, so what exactly is it about that process that seems to stump you? Like, is it the fact that you don't feel like you can break away from the initial idea that you have? Or is it that you just can't come up with random stuff as you're painting it? Or is there some other factor here? I feel like there's some redundant shapes here that I probably need to address soon. This down here seems a little superfluous. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like, it doesn't really need to be here, it just kind of distracts the eye, I think. I always loved your landscapes, even though following your earlier work on the Pixel Joint days, because we have similar tastes. I'm just trying to think back. Pixel Joint, that was quite a while ago, yeah. I was part of that community for a good bit, and then I had to sort of back away a little bit because I simply had too much to do. So that must have been like some whiles back, 20 years ago. Yeah. Like, those were the days of like Pixel Joint, yes, but pixelation as well, and TIG source. I think maybe that stuff is on my mind right now because there's a bunch of people that are currently attending GDC, and I mean, we're even displaying a game there, but we can't be there ourselves because of things happening. And I think just seeing the footage of the parks and everything where me and other game developers used to hang out together is, I don't know, it's a bit nostalgic. Sort of where all of our hopes and dreams started out. Like, it isn't even GDC or San Francisco specifically, it's just kind of like that whole era where all of that began. It's a weird thing to think back on. Let's see. Yeah, that's a little bit more readable. I think that's the way forward. Let's see. The blob face is hard because everything is too incorrect at the base level. It's too abstracted. Okay. I always feel like I don't have a roadmap forward because everything is generally incorrect all over the place. Okay, so it sounds to me, at the very least currently, like you prefer to work with stuff that's either mapped out or at the very least in some sort of system. And I mean, I've worked with artists that have more of that kind of mindset, and often it tends to be that they default to really liking rulers, like just measuring everything out as they go. I'm not saying that as sort of like a catch-all. It genuinely tends to be that there are artists that realize that they don't like working without some sort of overview. Who was it again? It was the artist for Life of Scrooge, Don Rosa. He came and did a talk at a convention I was at when I was pretty young, and I remember I always liked his comics, and then it turned out that his whole thing was that he could not draw a proper circle. He just couldn't do that freehand. So every single comic, he would scribble something down, and then use these specified rulers that allowed you to draw circles and lines and everything. And he would meticulously use that for every single page, because that allowed him to make lines that he felt was like worthy of being published. So that is a way that you can do art. I don't necessarily know if there's a direct advice that I can give you on this, because it really comes down to how you feel about your own confidence in how you view things. Like, if it's just like you cannot imagine it without having some sort of guide, then that might just be how you think about things. But maybe as an experiment, just try to make up some stuff. Like, yes, it's intimidating, but it might also be intimidating because you feel like your safety net is gone. And it might actually be fine if you give it a couple of goes. It could be that you'll discover that you just prefer working within certain parameters. That could be it. But sometimes it's fine to just sort of leave the reins and then just see where you end up without too many constraints. Like when I do these, the reason why I do the so-called blob stage is because I tend to meticulously plan. I do make vigorous plans for where things should be and how shapes should be. Like, me working on character art, for example, I am unbelievably anal about that. Like, I've been working on the character select sprites for Vikings on Trampolines now, which are a sort of in-game redraw of the character art that comes with the game. And I cannot tell you how many times I've done micro adjustments on the poses just because they need to be perfect for what they are. This is like my bread and butter, being extremely meticulous with stuff. So this whole series, me painting landscapes that are just like whatever, is me just throwing caution to the wind and making stuff up. So if I give the impression that I always just pull something out of nowhere, I'm sort of laying the groundwork so that we'll feel comfortable in this setting. So in short, I don't know if I have any concrete advice that I can give. This is really just like you have to learn some things about yourself and your methods, I think. I only made it to GDC showing in 2016 because my dad shoved plane ticket and food money in my hands. I mean, I only went to the first GDC because Joe from our team just threw our demo at the IGF competition. Because he was way more optimistic than I was. He was like, "We're gonna win this!" And I was like, "I don't think so," and then he threw it over there anyway, and we got nominated. So it ended up working out, and I met a lot of really nice people, so Turns out it was a really good idea. You know, it's really bizarre to me to think, because we're listening to the F-Zero soundtrack right now, that they created this game as the mascot for the SNES. Like, Captain Falcon was supposed to be like Captain SNES, more or less. And he was there to showcase all of the things that the SNES could do. And then they made another one on the N64, and they were kind of like, this isn't going too well. So they get Sega's arcade division to make another one, and it's unbelievably good. And then they just never did anything with it. Like, there was that interview recently where a Nintendo sub-company, I forget who it was. I remember the person they interviewed was British. They had developed a new F-Zero, and they had already pitched it to Nintendo, and they had gone through all of the different ideas that they had for how this would work. And they just turned it down, and now they're not allowed to show it anywhere. And honestly, I kind of get it right now, because why would you put out another racing game that would be competing with Mario Kart? But then, of course, I said that, and then they announced Kirby's Air Ride. Or Air Riders, I guess, the new one. And now I'm like, so you could. Honestly, you could. You just didn't want it. In that game, you're incentivized for everything that could happen in the city trial to just ruin the other player's experience. Yeah, it's a... I think that's what interests me about that game. Like, I'm probably not going to play it right now because I don't have the capacity to deal with a video game right now. But what's fascinating to me is that it is such a GameCube game. Like, this is extremely niche. It's extremely feature-rich. It sort of it appeals to this type of design practice that was really prominent during like the GameCube, PS2 era. Like it's perfect for that. And the fact that someone got the budget to make it. Just the fact that someone managed to convince a team of people to put in full effort into this like GameCube-like game is what really astounds me. And of course, I mean, a lot of the credit is probably to Sakurai in the sense that I don't think a lot of people are going to say no to that guy. So I think that's probably a lot of what why that is, but it's still like... Okay, this is where my brain goes. It's that the argument for a lot of other series has always been, we're not going to make another one of these. Like, I'm not really on the, like, you have to revive every single thing. But if we're going to use that argument, every time someone asks for, like, a very particular game to come back, it's always, it won't fit with a modern audience, and we don't have a gimmick that would sort of put it center stage if we did it. Is the soundtrack over? Yep, it's over. And yet here's Kirby Air Riders, and it's no problem. You can just do that, and people will like it because they like the game. Which means you could just do that with, I don't know, you don't need a gimmick for Star Fox then. Just make it as arcadey as the original, and people will go, oh, well, it's neat. But that's only if we're going by the logic that this was what they were intending to do. I don't know. It could just be the pull of Sakurai. He made so many successful games, so just like, screw it. Luigi's Mansion was such a GameCube game too. Yeah. Now they've made them a little bit more cinematic. I played a good bit of the. Of course, I played the first one, but the third one, I have it on my Switch. And yeah, it's very arcadey in this presentation, but you can kind of see where their argument is, where it's like, okay, it's still sort of exploration-y with a good bit of cutscene potential and that sort of thing. It's still like a very contained sort of experience with the option to branch out into more like cinematic areas. I think part of the thing for me is that it feels weird that we might no longer be in the generation where weird games get allocated top teams to make stuff for it. Like, that doesn't sound correct because of indie games and everything. Like, you have all these quirky titles coming out of indie studios, but it's something else when you have the actual genuinely top talent of the largest and most profitable companies out there making just complete insanity. Like, that's the thing that's like, that's the spice that I feel is missing. Like, that's why it's so weird to go back into, like, the catalogs of old companies now. And you'll find out that they made the most bizarre thing you've ever seen in your life, and it was every composer and programmer that has been given every award in the book. They're just in there making, like, I don't know, Super Punches You in the Head Man. Like, you go back in Konami's history, right now it's like, ah yes, they made Metal Gear Solid, and they made Castlevania, and they did all of these things. On the NES they made a platformer about a penguin where you have to manage his diet through every stage. Like, just the weirdo titles that are just like, hell yes, I want to see you do more of that stuff. It's like Koji Kondo breaking away from his current life to go make, I don't know, the soundtrack to a sentient fridge game. They did Rakuga Kids. Oh yeah, that came out here, I'm pretty sure, in Europe, because I've played it. Really funky game. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's just, like, probably current audiences would just kind of destroy that game because the competitive scene is something very different. But I like it because it's not trying to be a serious fighting game. It's just a weird game with weird ideas, and somehow that was fine. It was good enough for a team full of people in what was a massive company at the time. We're just like, yeah, of course we're gonna allocate you money for this game where children's crayon drawings fight each other on the N64. That seems like a good use of our budget. Didn't Smash Bros. Start off like that? It's difficult to know exactly how to define that, because, like, the first Smash Brothers, if I remember correctly, was like a lot of games ended up being inspired by other things. I think Smash Brothers was inspired by Outfoxies, if I remember correctly. But it started out just as a general fighter with just generic characters that they experimented at HAL Laboratories. And the first title sold pretty well, but it wasn't the explosion that happened until Melee came along. And I don't remember if Bandai Namco was involved all the way on that time. No, I think that was before they came in, wasn't it? They started getting involved either in 4 or with Brawl. That's when they started getting secondary help, I think. Smash 4, okay. But yeah, I mean, it was certainly a very experimental title. It was a very unusual game, but it's also one of those, like, the fact that they had the freedom to experiment with something like that. And I'm not saying that companies can't do that, but there's certainly less weird games from large sources these days, I feel. Again, it's my own biases showing, but... I also think I'm probably being a bit nostalgic. Again, thinking back to stuff from GDC, it was very weird because when I would visit in the early days, that was sort of the whole camaraderie, was that everyone felt like the much larger companies had no idea what they were doing anymore. They were just kind of churning out stuff that people were sort of half interested in. And then that sort of became the creative counterculture of the indie movement. Then, of course, the indie movement figured out a bunch of stuff, and then the AAA space was just like, oh yeah, we'll just do that. Has there been a game lately, something newish that has really excited you? That is a difficult question, because it sort of goes in one ear and out the other sometimes. I think I mentioned it the other day, but Donkey Kong Bonanza is definitely, like, it was exactly what I wanted. And was creative in a sort of polished, thorough way with little details that are just, like, very Simon-coded. Again, it's something that I mentioned before, but, like, my whole thing is theming. Theming through character design, theming through the worlds, like, the fact that everything can feel cohesive and that the designs themselves are the center stage of the whole thing. That's when I'm in my element. And Donkey Kong Bonanza has everything themed. Like, you're in Ostrich World, everything's shaped like an ostrich. The game is about breaking stuff, and so let's make everything about punching rocks. Let's make everything a different type of rock. Let's make every kind of digging that you can possibly make. Oh, you have transformations? Well, those different transformations should be represented in every facet of those levels and societies that they came from. Just like, it's all tied in there, but it's not tied in there in the same way that you would see from, like, a modern video game company where, like, they'll strew out lore for it, or they'll be really heavy on the character introductions or anything. No, the designs of everything speaks for itself. Like, the characters in Donkey Kong Bonanza really don't need to say a single word. Like, the worlds themselves speaks volumes about everything that's happening and what you're experiencing. And it was really nice to see. 'Cause it's that's the kind of thing that gets me fired up. Is seeing that there's companies that just get that. And I do think it's important, at least to some degree, that that this kind of design practice is still relevant. Because I feel a lot of times whenever I list things that I liked and design principles that I think are valuable or that I think are worth either emulating or discussing or whatever else, I always have to give examples to stuff in the past, which I don't think really captures people's imagination quite as much. Like, just saying, hey, everything was better before, isn't correct. It's just that it gets a lot harder to find examples of that sort of thing. And it sort of speaks back to what I just talked about, which is that it's a type of design that has to be facilitated by people that understand that this is worth taking the time to do. Like, you have to actually budget this out with your teams and rewarding this kind of design in order for that to actually happen. You can't just go, we're going to outsource a bunch of these things, and then we'll come up with something that looks correct. No, that this needs to be a continuous dialogue between people that sort of understand each other's line of thinking. And from what I understand, the Bonanza team is the Mario Odyssey team, and they've been working together for quite some time. Hell, they even started properly by working on Donkey Kong games, so they already have a familiarity with all of this. So the fact that I can communicate about it and it actually works is nice to see. I feel like Pokopia would be up your alley then. I don't know. It certainly looks like it's a good game. I mean, I know people in my circles that were really about Dragon Quest Builders, which this is certainly borrowing a lot of that game's DNA. I mean, it's the same developers. But if I'm being honest, like, I've played a ton of Animal Crossing, so I kind of have the same kind of experience there. I'm more looking forward to the new Tomodachi Life. Like, that, I think, just from my schedule and everything else, it'll fit my vibes very nicely, because it's just coming in there, looking at these little goobers doing things, and then seeing what happens. Because, I feel like I have my building game niches pretty covered right now. So adding, like, another thing where I have to build up my things from scratch, probably... I'm alright right now. But yeah, I am really looking forward to the new Tomodachi Life. So, while I think it is its strength, I always felt like it would be interesting if you had more options to sort of see what these characters would do in locations and how they would react to things. And I mean, now I don't remember what the name of it was, but the Tomodachi RPG did explore some of that. But you can very clearly see a lot of the DNA of those ideas in the original game being ported over to the new one. I don't know. It'd at least be a nice thing to mess around with for a bit. Is there a method to the madness when you're painting this scenery? It's really just I see something that doesn't seem to align with how I want things, and then I go in and I change it. I haven't planned any of this, because that's kind of the point. I'm trying to avoid planning. So it's really just like I add things to the scene until it feels like we're approaching some sort of end point. Which of course means that this is probably going to take a while, but you know, sometimes you got to do things just because they are enjoyable to do, and not so much because, I don't know, it needs to be expedient. This is something that I've talked about quite a few times before, so apologies for repetition, but I think that's a sort of mental state that has unfortunately grown because of social media and everything, that you have to finish things fast. I've lamented this quite a few times, but the fact that there isn't really much incentive for people to come back to things and just sit there and, like, take something in. Like, I remember back in the day, if there were artworks or, hell, even, like, game art that I was really interested in, I would just go to that company's website and then just look at that art. Just, like, soak it into my brain. and that would be, I remember I would be on vacation or something, and you could go to these internet cafes, and I would go in there, I would pay like whatever the fee was for like X amount of minutes to go and browse the internet, and I would find some website that I would have memorized, and I'd just go there and stare at the art. Like, not saving it to any disk or anything, not sharing it with anyone, just like enjoying it for myself. And, that's sort of the mentality that I have with a lot of this kind of stuff, is that I've often painted for the intention that someone will just like, I don't know, experience it by itself. But of course, I don't really feel like that is how things function anymore. It's more so someone will pass it by on a site somewhere, either save it to their hard drive and re-upload it somewhere else, or hit a like button and then move on. Like, there is very little incentive for me to make paintings of this detail level these days. Like, I'm certainly not getting anything back for it. Like, I don't... my career is not making money off of being a landscape painter, so the only reason why I would do this would either be because, I don't know, I enjoy people interacting with it, or for myself. And there's very little interaction in the online space, so these days when I make these kinds of things, it's because I want to do it for me. So it's a very different feeling. It kind of felt like in sort of like the slightly earlier days of, like, I won't even say social media, but like the what eventually grew into it. There was almost like this like competitive spirit where the intention was always to like make one thing that was very grand, and that other people could be like, whoa, look at this amazing one thing that this person made. And that was sort of the goal in and of itself. I sort of feel like, I mean, maybe a little cynical of me, but it feels like if you do that now, there has to be some kind of like incentive for it. I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying anything in particular here or commenting on anything specific. Just kind of sort of where my brain's at. Let's see. Well, it's at least looking a little bit more like how I wanted to. I feel like I want to push these bushes down a little bit more. Maybe something like this. Oh, I guess we have a raid. Welcome, everybody. How are you doing? We are currently painting a lot of moss. And we've been going for about an hour. There you go. That is my pitch. Anyway, how is everybody? You had a good stream over at My Type? What were you working on over there? Anything particular? Yes, moss. I can show a little bit of the progress that we've made so far. It's not a ton. We started about, where is it? I think we were here when we started, and we've just been adding tiny bits of detail as we go along, trying to sort of center things a little bit better. Worked on my OCs. Okay. A worthy endeavor. Ah, right. Getting sleepy. Okay. Well, I still appreciate that you stopped by. And, hopefully I'll be able to have this VOD available for later, so don't feel bad about having to run. What did I say? I said I hope you have a good one. Let's see. Now, where was I? Is everything reading the way that I wanted? It doesn't look half bad now. Like, it certainly had some value issues early on, but I feel like it's closer to being sorted out. So here's what I'm thinking. I am going to keep making this as, like, mossy, realistic, depicted, whatever, as I possibly can. And then once things are settled in a little bit, and I feel like I'm at a comfortable spot with where everything is, I'm going to just start hiding monsters everywhere. I think that's where I'm going to go with this. I'm just going to start shoving little faces around every little corner in this piece, because that sounds fun to me. Like, doing a bit of a callback here to old Don Russo stuff, but I think that was, like, one of the things that I really enjoyed with those old, like, Life of Scrooge comics, was just that he hid stuff everywhere. You could just sit there and try to find everything. So maybe that's what I'll do with this one. Let's see. Probably need to have a little bit more light on that tree trunk. It's a little bit too neutral. Is that too much light? Can I just, like, straight up make it glow? Yeah, that kind of works. It kind of works. You know what? This soundtrack is getting... I say that 3 seconds before the soundtrack is over. How did I do that? It's getting repetitive. Well, it's over. I was going to put on... oh my god. What's the name of that game again? It is... Come on. Come on, brain. You can do this. It is called... There it is. Gradius 3 on the SNES. Why did that take me so long to pull out of my head? Like Julie's pointed this out a couple of times, but the expression for not remembering something in Norwegian is Iron Curtain. Like, you get an Iron Curtain when that happens. And it always sounds so weird to translate that into English. Yeah, I got deep in the Iron Curtain with that one. How's everyone's back pain? It's actually been doing very well. It's not as bad as it has been in previous weeks, which I'm very thankful for. I'm a bit tired of this, like, back stuff, but... I'm just gonna try not to jinx it, and just be thankful that I'm operational as of right now. I feel like I at least need to sort of dot down the general idea of how the moss is going to be. And then we can expand it as we go. Because there's a lot of, like, more minute details on the shading that I want to make sure that comes through as I work on it. This, I feel like I could make a little bit more rooty. There's not enough root stuff happening here. It's like that meme. Look at all this room for activities, except the activities are roots. Let's see. Just hitting save on that before bad things happen. And then... what was I saying? I needed to make this a little bit more gnarled, so let's do that. Remember, chat, always gnarl your tree. I have no idea if that constitutes any sort of advice, but... well, it's out there now. Okay. Am I having an episode here, or is that where gnarly comes from? Not a native English speaker, so I have no clue. Seems too close to be a coincidence, though. Not sure, but it could be. Good enough! Let's put it up in a YouTube video. We'll be proven wrong later. Damn it. Now I just thought of the dumbest joke where it's like, who would it be? It would be Michelangelo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something. Of course saying, gnarly! And then he's just looking at a tree. Give me 2 seconds here. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. There was an error with one of our websites, and I had to just take a quick look at it. Anywho, where was I? I put a thing in memes with that same blunt force energy. Oh god, what am I walking into? Are you serious? Am I showing this on stream? I guess I'm showing this on stream. Damn it. Yeah. Good. Yeah. What was I doing again? I completely blanked out. As an aside, it's always so strange to me that their choice to name the main character of that game Lightning. Like, it's fine. There's a lot of names like that, but it sort of implied a direct connection to the ideas behind Final Fantasy VII. And yet it has nothing to do with it. It's just kind of like, well, we made Cloud, so now we make Lightning. Sure. It's sort of like Nintendo makes a completely different game that is now called, like, The Adventures of Giuseppe. And it's like, it's very Mario coded. And the naming convention alludes to something that is like Mario-like, but it has nothing to do with it. It always struck me as such a like strange decision. My RPG protagonist will be named Bottle, and I'm not explaining it. I immediately was like, ah yes, Bottles' dad from Banjo-Kazooie. It's like a Banjo-Kazooie spin-off. That would be a joke that they would do, though, right? Like, they'd have a character named just Bottle, and Bottles would be like, you didn't think I was the only one? I am plural. And then you find, I don't know, Grunthilda's mom, and it's like... her name is Grumpier Hilda or something. That sounds like a very rare thing to do. Absolutely pissed Hilda. Let's see. Just want to add some torn off bark here, just to make it feel a little extra lived in. See. Was that a bit too much? Can't quite tell. Yeah, it does drag away a lot of attention. Maybe I should simplify that a little bit. Like that, maybe. The one thing about the Gradius soundtrack is that they use some really interesting time signatures for their different tracks. Like, they just went wild with whatever combo they felt like. Let's see. we go. Doesn't have to be quite that dark in there. Let's flip that over just to see. Yeah, there's a lot to fix here. It's kind of at the point now where we're getting into slightly more subtle detail. And the entire thing is just to make sure that things have a certain balance as we're looking at it. And kind of making sense of the mess that we've made. Because I've been jotting down a lot of things, but not everything kind of makes sense for where it is. Sometimes the shadows are a little harsh. Sometimes the placement is a little silly. Like there's a lot of things here that you have to tighten a little as you go. And I think that is part of the challenge with working at this kind of detail level. Is the closer and closer you get to something that feels like cohesive and like it was planned with a purpose, the more you start noticing things that don't really fit, and being able to weed those out takes longer and longer because you're upping the quality requirements, sort of. This, for example, was too dull. There. I always found it incredible how sad they made the continue theme. Oh, hello. Thank you. The decaf has arrived. Oh, life is good. Decaf hour. Hell yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it is moving. It is moving. Not gonna lie, I was a little worried that there were elements of this that were gonna be stuck for a while. But, it is actually getting to the point where it feels readable now. It's still a little, I feel like something is missing, like, here. Could I brute force that? Is that a thing I could do? Just kinda... that maybe? It's a little bit too harsh, but... Let me see. It does read a little better. Might be a bit too far though. I think I mentioned it once, a tiny bit of dark hot chocolate can fix a bad brew. Yeah, I've had moments where we've sort of tried to mix some stuff in, and it can definitely fix something that is a little stale. Let me see here. This is admittedly a bit of a risky move. I don't actually know if this is going to work in practice, but let's just give it a shot, see where we end up. Because right now, it's the wrong things that are drawing my eye, and I don't like that. It's that weird thing where a small bit of chocolate makes coffee stronger, a tiny bit of coffee makes chocolate stronger. I mean, that's part of why they're such a good pairing as well. It's like the people that figured out that mochas were a good thing understood something about people. One thing I haven't seen anyone capitalize on yet is I might be in the minority here, but like there's a lot of food pairings that kind of make sense, like salty sweet and that sort of thing. But one that I experience a lot is that if I have fish specifically, I want ice cream. Like there's something about the combination of ice cream versus fish that works. And I'm not saying like at the same time, I'm saying like after. So it's almost like a later pairing. Of course, some maniac is going to hear that and be like, I have created ice cream with fish in it. Thank you for this inspirational choice. And then I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. Sardine umami in ice cream. I feel like seaweed could probably work in ice cream, right? I've heard of some funky flavors that you can put together. I just watched a program about someone that did tobacco ice cream. Like, they would grind up fresh cigars and then mix that with the ice cream. And, like, probably not a great thing. Not something I would recommend, but it was edible. And it created a completely different flavor. So, who am I to say what goes and doesn't go with things? Like, taste is a really strange thing once you get down to the details. Oh, did we run out of soundtrack again? Okay. Bleh. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Could I, perhaps... No. No, that won't work. What a shame. What about phalanx? That should work. Bam. I had a friend who hates the taste of olives, but wanted to like them, so she kept eating them over time, and now she actually does. I mean, if... yeah, there's a certain, like, psychological element to taste and smell. Like, there are smells and taste which are, in a lot of ways, the same thing. That objectively, if you measure it, have the exact same smell as things that you find repulsive, but in the context of food versus other things, it changes the context. So there's a lot of psychological elements there in terms of why you interpret certain things the way that you do. I think there's a fascinating thing about how your taste changes when you increase in elevation. So airplane food, for example, has to be designed differently, like spiced differently, because you can only taste certain things at certain altitudes. If I remember correctly, tomato is one of the few things that has the same consistent taste, regardless of what elevation you're at. But a lot of other things just taste weird. Habanero super dry, which messes you up. I could do it too. All I'm saying is that we are some strange beasts sometimes. Let's see. Well, that tree is coming along, and I do kind of like that lighting a little better down here. Keeps it a little bit more focused. I do think I need to cut it down a little bit, like to up here maybe. That feels more in line with what I want. And then we'll see where we end up. I do feel like I need to bring more of that, like, actual grass in here somewhere. Maybe I should just finish what I was doing over in this direction. Let me see. How would I paint that? Maybe like... yeah, a little darker over there, and then actually emphasize that ridge a little. I think that's the right call. Can I just merge these two? Is that allowed? It is not allowed! That is a crime. It is illegal, and it has been banned. None of that. I'll just have to merge the layers later. I'm not sure if you can say or not, is there a date for Vikings and Trampolines planned for Steam? We don't have a release date set just yet. The way that we're working on our titles right now is that we want them to be finished first, and then we start looking at when we're going to do a potential launch. Because, frankly, the way things are right now, we need to make sure that people actually see it first. And then we sort of play off that interest. Because we've done a couple of games in the past where we've just kind of said, well, this is the day that it's coming out, and people will, in some way, internalize that this is the time when it happens, and then things should move from there. And it's been proven at this point that that's not really how it works. You kind of need to know that everyone is where you need them to be before a launch. So we're unfortunately going to have to do a lot of thinking before we can actually do the proper release. But what I can say is that we are at the very least hoping to have the game at least feature complete this year. I don't know when that is going to be happening, but sometime during this year it will be done on our end. And then we'll just have to see when it fits with for everyone else for this thing to come out. Because, I mean, I've been playing this repeatedly now for months and months, and I really enjoy the game now. The co-op / single player mode, I think, is genuinely pretty fun. It's just where do we showcase this in a way that it will show that to its best effect? That kind of thing. And I suppose I've said that previously too, is that part of the thing with Vikings is that a lot of the stuff that we're going to be doing from here on out sort of hinges on where Vikings at. We have quite a few things lined up internally, and if Vikings works out, then I don't know, things might be moving a lot more rapidly from here on out, because Vikings is sort of like the glue that holds all of this together. It could also be that even if Vikings doesn't do perfectly well, things might move forward at a pretty rapid pace anyway. We'll just have to see. But right now, at the very least, if Vikings does well and we don't have to stress quite as much with a few things, we have a lot more options on the table moving forward from like 2027. And I don't know. I'm just trying to be optimistic about it, because I know for a fact that we have some things that I think people would be dying to hear about, but I mean, you know me. I'm kind of tired of doing this whole thing where I'm saying like I promise there are things on the horizon, because for a lot of the people that follow our work, it might seem like nothing is there, but I promise you, there's we have like a whole warehouse of things that's just sitting there. We just have to get over this one hump, and then things might start moving again. And I mean, besides, these past couple of years, there have been quite a lot of things that have been happening internally, like on the private side, and it's not really stuff that I can talk too much about, because you know that's personal. But there's a lot that we've had to figure out, and I feel like we are slowly getting to a place where we kind of know where the cards are. But we'll see. We'll see. I feel like usually these painting streams just becomes D-pad speculative hour. Let's see here. Yeah, that looks a little bit more how I want it. Let's see. Yeah, not too jarring, not too jarring. What is that line again? The ultimate bakery compliment is like not too sweet, and mine would be not too jarring, I guess. Looking forward to any games. Mine is probably Mina the Hollower. I know Mina the Hollower is going to be good because I know the developers at Yacht Club very well, especially Sandy and the people that he works with, and they are very, very talented people. So I'm pretty confident that they are going to knock it out of the park with that one. So regardless of what happens to the reception of Mina the Hollower, like I realized that there was an article recently that sort of discussed their financial position and kind of the things that they are going to be struggling with. But I can say with a pretty high degree of confidence that if Yacht Club ends up struggling in any way with any game that they release, it's not because they didn't work hard enough or that they didn't put enough effort in or whatever else. Like, their games consistently are of excellent quality and they hit exactly the niches that they are aiming for. It would really just be a really unfortunate storm of other things that would be happening at the same time that could even possibly drag something like that down. So I think whenever Mina and the Hollower actually releases, I know it'll be good. Let's see. Should probably get a little bit more of those like darker tufts in there, just as an element. And some of these. Consistency and all that. Let's see. Need a little bit more definition on this one. Just so it's readable. Might be able to get away with a little bit of fade there. Like that maybe? Yeah. Then I should make the other side a little darker to compensate. There we go. So to give a little update on where we're at with Vikings, like I can't talk a lot about the development of the game and all of that, but I can say that right now I am working on the world map and trying to get all of the different worlds illustrated. So we're at the point now where we're trying to get those details in there. And I think we feel confident enough that we have a rough idea of like the amount that we're looking at in terms of levels and that sort of thing. So that's been really nice to get out of the way. And I did mention that the selection menu, because in the original builds that people had played at conventions, we always used a beta menu that wasn't finished. And I've been updating the portraits from that. Now, full disclosure, when I made those, that was when we had just, like, literally decided that we were going to have actual designed characters for the game. Because it used to that every character was just a, like, generic Viking thing. And I had pitched that we actually make some characters because I think people will resonate more with, like, people that they care about. And then we got invited to a convention. And we were like, well, we're having these characters on display, so we better have illustrations for the characters. So I just took the unfinished concept art that we had at the time, slapped it in the game, and then pixeled a little bit on top of it so that we could meet that deadline. And those have been in the game ever since. They have like a million colors each. It aggravates me every time I look at it, but we had to wait until we were sure how we were going to be doing those menus before I could change them out. And I've finally done it. Like, I've reduced them to a comfortable, like, 32 colors or so. And they're, oh, it's such a relief to get that out of the way. I think we've been having those out for display for like 9 years now or something. Like it's been quite a while. Hey Guardian, what's up? Is it more in line with Savant or Owlboy? I'm not really sure what you're asking, Sandesco. Something like that. The game progression, not the mechanics. So, the way things work in Vikings and Trampolines is you have a versus mode that first it functions more like I think platform brawler, I guess. More Smash Brothers than Tekken, but still, you still get stages with items and everything else. But then you also have the adventure mode, and you can play that single player or with up to 4 other people. And it's a kind of a, I think, a mix between Mario Party and Cuphead. You have you unlock stages as you beat them, but you also have a ranking system to determine how well you do something. So you can come back and play levels several times if you want to, and you'll get rewards for beating them better. Some of them are more like platformer stages, some of them are more like enemy rush stages, some of them are like little mini games. There's a lot of variety there because the concept is kind of bizarre as it is. And of course, I mean, that should speak for itself, but every world has boss fights. So that's ultimately what every world that you unlock is building towards. So it's a whole campaign with an ending and everything. So I guess you can equate it more to like a classic platformer, just weirder. I don't know the name of the yellow character with horns. We will be revealing that soon, actually. If everything goes the way that I planned for it, that's going to be in the next newsletter, which comes out this month. It was intended to come out last month, but we're waiting for a very, very particular deadline to get greenlit. And once we have the go-ahead for that, then we can share the newsletter. And judging by some of the questions, I have a suspicion that it might be up to some people's alley here. Man, it's been a day. Again, I apologize for always having to be so vague about everything. Probably the easier strategy is just like to blurt out everything that we're doing, but I think I'm just kind of more used to planning these sorts of things, more so than just doing everything out in the open. I don't know. I like to build suspense kind of guy. And, part of the reason why, at least I do this kind of thing, is I like making, like, games that are almost like little gift boxes, where you get to be delighted and intrigued by what you find inside, instead of just being like, here's all the mechanics, you saw it in a post somewhere, go buy the game because that's what you're getting, kind of a thing. Just doesn't hit the same for me, I guess. Well, this side is feeling a lot more presentable now. Not exactly sure how I feel about this part at the moment. Like, there's something that isn't hitting right, and I have to figure out what that is. This can probably do with a bit more curve, for one. I think maybe it's because all of this is so gray. Could do with a bit more green, maybe. Yeah, that feels more in line with what I was thinking. Okay, how's that? Flip that over. Yeah, it's still readable. Still readable. That root is a little wrong. Alright, we're out of soundtrack again. How about... should I risk it? Should I play the Final Fantasy soundtrack anyway? Nah, I'm gonna have to sit here and go through it repeatedly in order for it not to break. What would work for this? I Okay, we're doing it. We're painting forests. So we're breaking out the classic. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, that root. That root needs to be dealt with. Let's see here. I guess sort of on that note, it is seeming like there is probably a Chrono Trigger remake on the horizon, at the very least. There's been quite a few hints at that. And, man. At some point, if that happens to be true, they are probably going to reveal that this thing is going to be HD 2D, and I'm not going to like it. Like, it will probably be a situation where a lot of people are extremely happy about it and tagging me about it because I made that Chrono Break trailer. And then I'm gonna be sitting there going like, no. Like that whole look has so utterly co-opted people's idea of what a two-dimensional RPG is supposed to look like. It's insane. That's how I feel about the MGS3 remake. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Metal Gear Solid 3 is very much a product of its time. And was already excellently made on the system where it was created, and it really didn't need a remake. I understand why they did it, and I understand sort of the logic here. On one hand, they want to emphasize probably one of the most successful games in that series and bring it back to people so they remember it. They also don't have Kojima there anymore, so doing remakes of titles is a lot safer right now until they might dare to find someone else to sort of attempt to lead that charge. But I mean, I'm not all about remakes in the first place. I tend to think if you're going to remake something that was awful, and otherwise move forward. Especially if it was something that was absolutely beloved. Like, continue from there, make new things. But yeah. Some HD2G games look so awful, and I hear everyone saying it looks great. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the the challenge with this entire thing. Like, yes, people are allowed to form their own opinions, and they're allowed to have ideas about how things should be handled. And I have to be humble about the fact that there are entire generations now that do not know these systems. They are not familiar with this art form other than just what people have told them on the internet. And that their only connection to it is like the sort of manufactured nostalgia for something that they never experienced themselves. And I don't mean to dismiss everyone that likes this sort of thing as people that don't have experience with it. I'm saying that more than likely you're going to have a lot of people that like stuff like HD 2D because they don't have the repertoire to compare to. And it should also be noted that a lot of the games that really showed what you could do with like 2D in an RPG environment were like early PSX, like that kind of era was that really exemplified a lot of that. But a lot of those games don't get a lot of exposure because they are... a lot of them are pretty stale. I think that's a lot of it, is that the people that tend to show those off tend to be like retro streamers or that sort of thing. And a lot of people don't really have the interest to sit there and look at all of these like pretty obscure 2D RPGs from the PlayStation era, because they genuinely take like weeks to get through, and the combat isn't always as like engaging as something like Chrono Trigger, which was like really snappy and easy to get through with very clear like story points and characters. But my point is that there's a lot of fuel on the fire that makes it seem like a bunch of people really think that this HD 2D thing is like the best way to present pixel art. And I think what's kind of frustrating for me as like I am not an expert on pixel art, but I have done this for long enough, and I have a career that is about promoting this for most of my life, to the point where people will ask me as if I am an expert. And when I say I don't think this is necessarily the best way of presenting art, and I have suggestions for how you would do it better, or maybe even that the way that people talk about HD2D is a little disingenuous to the craft, I feel like a lot of people just don't want to hear that and instead want to sort of confirm their biases. Like, oh, I'm too old school, that I don't understand how these modern things work. But we had HD 2D, the equivalent. It's called billboarded 3D, and a ton of video games used it. Hell, JRPGs, or like however you want to define the term for those games now, were one of the primary examples of how to do that in really interesting and creative ways. But the thing is, it goes back to the thing that I started talking about very early on in the stream, is that these were like the top of these massive companies. The top designers for that was asked to work on these titles. They had immensely talented groups that were responsible for making these games. And it was worth it to sort of push the envelope as far as you could with them. And while I do think that there's tons of talented people working on these Square Enix games, I feel like there's more incentive to sort of stick to the kind of look that works now. Like, if I were to work on a title like this, I would want everything to be extremely clean and detailed. Like, I would very much want to push the envelope for what games like this could look like, but gotta be honest, it's very expensive. It's very expensive to take that much time and do things in these ways. So, I don't know. It's a tough call. So, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not disparaging anyone for liking that sort of thing, because you are free to your own opinion, and my idea is not law. I just feel there are better ways of solving it. And it does... the thought that Chrono Trigger could end up being remade in that look doesn't excite me all that much. Like, at that point, I'd almost want them to do like the extremely Akira Toriyama looking 3D characters. But I think, honestly, here's the thing, and this feels like I've gone in full circles here, but the way that I feel about it, I don't really want them to remake Chrono Trigger. I don't. Like, I would be interested in them, like, continuing the story with people that actually care about the project, or like exploring something completely different adjacent to it, like Radical Dreamers, the Satellaview game that eventually became mutated into what became Chrono Cross. I thought that was a really interesting idea, just like turning Chrono Trigger into a like essentially a text adventure dungeon explorer. Like, there were a lot of interesting ideas there, but like I've already played Chrono Trigger, and I'm very happy with my memories for that. So I feel like that's sort of where my brain's at. Arc the Lad was goated. Yeah, Arc the Lad had some really interesting art. I feel like the second one became 3D, so there wasn't all that much incentive to sort of keep that look going. But the first one was certainly like really visually interesting. But you also had am I misremembering? Is it, yeah. The first Grandia game had some really lovely set pieces. I feel like that one everyone kind of just forgets about, because it was in that like midpoint where you just sort of forget that that there were tons and tons and tons of RPGs like this, but they are very tough to show to people other than just like, look at how pretty it is. Like, understanding why these things work. Like, look at this. Like, that is absolutely gorgeous looking. no bloom or extra effects or whatever. It's just textures with plain coloring and everything feeling very delicately placed in a manner that fits with the room. Like, this is what I like. But even if I said this and it was like, this is what I would like, and they made Chrono Trigger like this, like a remake, like, I don't think I would be all that thrilled about it. Like, it would look great. It would. But I would much rather they just do like, okay, make a new Chrono game then, and make it look like that. Enough with the remakes, all I ask for is a new Breath of Fire game that returns to its roots. I mean, if Capcom is interested, I'll make the whole thing. Like, I just... if you're not doing anything with that IP whatsoever, and you have no interest in it, just, can hand it to me and the team for a couple of years, and you'll just have a new Breath of Fire in the style of Breath of Fire 3 and 4. I mean, it might kill me, but I mean, it sounds like at least something that would be worthy of exploring as like a concept. PS1 had a lot of U2D3 is the new cool thing now. Yeah, I mean, that is the entire thing I've been fighting against now since the start of my career, is that pixel art is no longer, or was no longer, regarded as neither a medium nor an art form. It was labeled as outdated, which makes no sense. You can't say an art style is outdated. It's art. You can literally make whatever art you want. It doesn't work that way. In fact, 2D and pixel art, for that matter, has stayed extremely relevant. Like, bizarrely relevant, despite its apparent age in, like, the information sphere. It's stuck around, even though nobody has any interest in maintaining it, or promoting it, or teaching anything about it. It hasn't been seen as monetarily viable or in the zeitgeist or whatever else people have thrown on it, but it's still there. Which shows to me that there are some very clear and appealing things about it. And yet, like, if you release a pixel art video game these days, the default is that you put a smoothing filter over it. So you don't have to see all of those nasty pixels that some poor person has slaved over to make work perfectly with these particular backgrounds. But I mean, again, just to get my biases out of the way, like, I have very particular standards because this is something that matters a lot to me. Like, this is my entire career. This is what I've specialized in for most of my life. Of course I want to promote pixel art. And I would want it to be promoted in the best way that it possibly can, because at the very least to me, as a professional in the field of pixel art, I think it just so happens to be pretty important to maintain an entire art form. Like, that to me sounds like a pretty important duty just in general. But I mean, we sort of live in the world of everyone wants to say that video games are art, but nobody wants to treat it like it is. Like, it's art if you like it, but it's also perfectly okay for you to like replace something with a completely new version of it and then still call it the same thing. Like, are we still like taking care of this as if it's an art form? Like, does this actually matter to people, or is it just like a nice thing that we say? And I'm just kind of consistently in the we should treat this like actual art and teach people about it and discuss it as if it has some sort of artistic merit. Like, if not the games themselves, then at the very least a work process involved in it. But again, those are my own biases. I cannot escape that. That is just like how I define things. I got my composite video capture set up, and I can make some naturally crusty footage if we want. Oh yeah! I forgot to comment on that. My TV even adds some of that subtle wave noise. Hell yes! There's something just like... It's just like extra seasoning on top of something that already looks nice. Man, we gotta run Owlboy through that thing. Get some like real crust footage. Okay, where am I at now? Let's see. Is it still readable? Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. It is. You can see everything. At least seemingly. Let's see. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, is that the recording of Goof Troop that you just sent me? Hold on, I can show that on screen. Am I able to download that by chance? Let's see. What's that gonna do if I do that? Yep, downloads. Okay, give me 2 seconds. Yeah, this might blast out the speakers, but we'll give it a shot anyway. There we go. That's the composite cable in action. You can kind of see. It's like really satisfyingly blurry. I was playing some oh, what was it? PS2 the other day. And I'm just running it as a SCART through a like massive widescreen TV. But because of the SCART cable and just like the internals of the PS2 anyway, you get that like subtle crust on everything, and it just, I don't know. In this case, I think a lot of it is actually nostalgia, because it doesn't necessarily make the games look better, but it's just that feeling of like, yes, now I am playing a video game. See, needs a bit more shadow on that side. Maybe not that much. And now I'm just sitting here thinking, what series would I want to bring back if I had the option to? I think about this every once in a while. Like, there are some that I'm a little bit more connected to, that I feel like there's at least some logical bit there that would make sense for me to be connected to it. Like a new Chrono game or a new Breath of Fire. I feel like I could at the very least imagine something like that. There's a bunch of games that I have connections to that I could probably imagine that I could bring back, but a lot of those I think would be not so fun to work on just because of the business associated with it, so I assume that there's a lot there that I just wouldn't touch just in general. But I'm trying to think. Like, obviously any Mega Man game, that would be fine, but there are some that just don't make sense. Like I absolutely love Star Fox, for example. I think it's a really good series with a lot of really interesting ideas and good characterization for what it is. And it has so much potential. But I don't think I would feel like I would be the right person to handle that one. Like, I think I know my strengths in design and all of that, and I feel like there are some groups that would definitely knock that out of the park. So I can't necessarily say that that would be my game to bring back. And then you have some weird ones like Power Quest, for example. That one I don't think can be brought back because the company that made it went under. And I don't know who the rights got sold to. But also, I don't know how to make fighting games. And when you already have something that's kind of established like that, then you have to play off of the rules that they're already using. And I don't think that would work out pretty well. But still, it's like, as a visual thing, that could be interesting. Just like figuring out the visual language of that, I could see would be interesting. I was recently asked what my favorite game is, and I couldn't answer it. Yeah, it's that one is always a tough one because I feel like it's a really easy thing to ask. Just saying like, well, best game ever, because you get people talking. But if you're actually going to give a real answer to that, there's so much to go through. Like, for example, I've been inspired in a lot of ways by Mega Man Legends. I've been inspired in a lot of ways by Breath of Fire. I have never finished Mega Man Legends. And Like, I've barely played the start of it, and that was like years later. And I've never been able to actually finish Breath of Fire 4. But it is one of my biggest inspirations. I know everything about it, but I I can't say that it's my favorite game because, like, how do you quantify that? Like, if you go by what games have I played the most, that would be a, like, almost sad list, because then you're just going by, like, what have I sort of wasted time on? For example, hanging out with friends during COVID and everything wasn't possible, so I have a lot of hours in PUBG, which, like, I would never, like, say is a design or interest pillar for me whatsoever. It's just something that I have played. Have a lot of hours in Space Engineers. I won't say that it's a, like, inspiration or something that has changed me much. It's just something I've played. I do really like Transport Tycoon, and I've played that a lot. But again, I don't think I would call that my favorite game. It's just something that's been on my journey. What would I say is probably more in line with what you would have for that kind of thing? Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask and Chrono Trigger were, like, very important to me as video games. So they would be up there. Haven't played them anywhere near as much as all of these other ones, though. Like, one of the games that really, like, impacted me as a person was, oh god, what is the name? Link to the Past. That was really important, but I hardly ever think about it, and I've probably finished it twice. And, Link's Awakening, I think maybe even more so, is very important to me, and I think I've also finished that only twice. But, on the other hand, maybe that's how it should be. Like, the impact happened, and now I carry that with me, sort of a thing. Some people that ask often have a tiny pool of games they play the hell out of. Yeah. And I mean, kind of like I mentioned too, it, I think to a, at least certain degree, it's just kind of an easy way to ask that question. Like, what are you into? And, I guess that kind of makes sense. Like, just phrasing it in sort of the simpler terms. But I don't know, like, I always find it very difficult to say, like, what is the best of something, because best is not really something that's quantifiable. It changes. It's like saying, what is the best food? And then someone goes like, ah yes, it's pancakes! But can it also be bread? No, just pancakes. It's the only thing that's good. You can only give one answer. That answer is pancakes, apparently. Ah, yes. The best character. The best character with the best theme. Frog is a wee beastie. And he carries a sword. And he was once a dude. Called Glenn. I think that's the weird thing about Frog Glenn, like the character, is that here Glenn is just like a very common, like completely normal name. It's kind of like having a character being named Frog Steve. On the other hand, if you flip it and call him someone Steve Frog, that actually does sound more like an actor name. Let's see. What else are we doing here? We are moving. Steve Frog has been out of work since they banned children's cereal. You just, like, catapulted my brain. When you showed me the Honey Smacks commercial and it just sounded like me. Because if I remember correctly, the Honey Smacks frog, at least for a good while when I guess they rebranded him a little bit. When I remember hearing him, he had like this kind of, "Hi, I'm the frog" kind of a voice whenever he was on TV. But apparently the original one just sounded like me doing like almost a Donnie voice. Hold on. I'm gonna we're gonna go on a detour here. Can I find that one? Yes, I can. Let's see here. It's gonna block me, and then we do it again. All right.
Class?
I'm not going to be showing this on screen, but you're gonna hear the voice. Trust me.
What animal do you think of when I say honey?
Frogs.
Frogs.
It's him!
But bees make honey.
But now I make honey smacks.
Honey, 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 honey smacks. Dig 'em, makes 'em honey smacking good.
You smacked him good.
You know a lot about honey, Diggum. What kind of grades did you get?
Bees.
Kellogg's honey smacks.
Part of the
Yeah, that just sounds like me doing a shit voice. Just bees. Anyway, what were we doing? Oh yeah, Chrono Trigger. Okay. What was I doing? I was adding reflections. That's what I was doing. Let's see. Just a little bit more detail on this rock. I feel like that's this entire painting. A little bit more detail on the rocks. Sort of explains most of the process, honestly. Okay. It is nearing the end of the line for me for this stream soon. So I am going to go for like 2 or so more minutes, I think. Gotta start wrapping it up because tomorrow is more work on the level select for Vikings and Trampolines. And if I can get that done tomorrow, that is probably one of the biggest things that has been finished in a while. It'll be quite a relief if I can get that out of the way. Just hoping for proper sleep tonight. Today was like walking around in a complete stupor. So if I can avoid that tomorrow and just hit the ground running and get a bunch of stuff done, that would be fantastic. Of course, there will be a couple of other things that'll be happening throughout the week as well. I mean, it is Monday today, but on the 11th and the 13th, if you're in San Francisco, we still have a booth up for Vikings and Trampolines, so we're trying to share that around a little bit, just gauge people's reactions. And hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, we're going to be touring a little bit, showing it around at some different venues. We had to kind of skip that last year. But now we're a little bit back on the ball, so I think we'll have a little bit more time for that. Okay, I think I should probably stop here. Let's take a look at what we've done today, and then maybe review that a little bit. So I started by adding all of this stuff before we began, and I added like a good bit more detail. And it's really just to get some more things into focus. And then we just kept adding detail, just making sure that things were where they were supposed to be. And then finally, a little bit more emphasis. So compared to where we started, I actually think we made quite a bit of progress. Just looking at it from a distance. And yeah, it's at least a lot more in line with what I had in mind for a picture like this. So I think if I keep this ball rolling from here, then maybe I can get this done by the end of the week. We'll see. It really just comes down to how much I have to do for work this month, but I'm hoping that it's not going to be too bad and that we're able to hit all our deadlines. So, oh well. Either way, that will be it for now. Okay. So that was the stream. I have no idea when the next one is going to be. Usually there's a chance that I could do it the day after or whenever else. Things are going to be coming a little bit down to the wire at this point. Like next week, I am going to start getting progressively more busy, and this month really needs to be completely wrapped up by the end of it. Like, we have some very, very, very important deadlines that have to happen at the end of this month. So if I have the opportunity to stream more, then I will do so, but I can't guarantee that I'll have the energy after everything that's going to be going down. So we'll just have to see. If I don't do another stream, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, we will also be releasing the next newsletter soon for D-Pad Studio. And hopefully we'll be able to share some really good news in that same update. Okay, that'll be enough rambling for me. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you all, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!